Welcome back. It's the Flow Friday Sports Show on Flow FM, and we're going to the River Murray Netball Association now. Our correspondent, Pat Brown, joins me on the line after a thrilling weekend of games. How are you, Pat? Good to speak with you again.
I'm good, thanks, Dan. How are you?
Very well, thank you. I'm better for not being a tipster in the River Murray Netball Association. You wouldn't have a good time if you were trying to tip in this league. Some of the other leagues we cover, it's usually pretty cut and dry as to which teams are going to beat which other teams when they play. There's a pretty well-established hierarchy, but we are all over the shop in the River Murray Netball Association this year.
And you're not wrong on that. I mean, last week I only got 1 out of the 4 games right, so I hope no one's following my tips. They'd be in a bad way.
Well, let's go through those games from last week. It was 4 really enticing matchups and 4 results that, well, they almost need to be seen to be believed. Let's start off with the top-of-the-table clash that occurred where the Ramblers hosted the Imperials, and it was the Imperials flexing their muscles 71-46, probably a much bigger margin that we would have expected, even for anyone who got the tip correct.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, Imps would have known that Ramblers would be one of their main competitors this early in the season, so they would have really concentrated on dotting all their I's and crossing all their T's. I mean, the game started with acknowledging Helene Altman for 150 games for Ramblers and Olivia Bolt 250 games for Imps. So that would have been a good start for both clubs. But I believe a bit of frustration managed to creep into the Ramblers' accuracy. But you can't give Imps a 13-goal head start at quarter time and then try and fight the game back. It's just never going to happen against Imperials. The position that I would have loved to have been able to be there and seen would have been Nikki D. Michelle on Olivia Bolt at centre. Those two long-time established arch rivals would have been brilliant to watch, even in a game with this score. So, Imps were determined. Ramblers would have found it very hard.
Congratulations to Helene and Olivia for those milestone games, and what a week for it in the top-of-the-table clash, but it was definitely the Imperials' day and not the Ramblers, so the Imperials stay undefeated and clear on top of the ladder. Another blowout in our next game, and another blowout that we certainly didn't see coming. Southern Suns smashing Mannum 67-38. What's the story here, Pat?
That would have been a nightmare for Mannum. They would have gone down there with a bit of confidence that they could compete against the Suns on an even keel, but it was a tough game, and the Suns had a point to prove playing at home. They seem to come on to their own when they're at home. Mannum, I believe, took a fair while to settle, and the accuracy in the feeding with their goalies was a bit that the Suns managed to jump on and capitalise the errors that were made. I mean, Mannum had got confident in doing intercepts through the centre court, but I think the Suns controlled their ball work very, very well, which minimised the Mannum opportunity. So I think it would have been a bit of a shock to Mannum. I think they would have thought that, this game was definitely one they could have gained the 2 points on, but I believe it was a very determined Suns team that wanted to prove that they are going to be up there this year as well.
In our next 2 games, we were a heck of a lot closer on the scoreboard. Maipolonga over Tailem Bend 37-34, and I think most people would have expected this one to be more like the margin we saw in those first 2 games.
Yeah, look, a lot of people would have expected that because the Maipo of old, that is how it would have been. But Maipo this year is still taking a while to settle into their new combination. I actually thought Tailem could have done it this week, but I believe it was a close game. I believe it sort of seesawed up and down. Both teams were eager. Maipo's defence would have worked the Tailem Bend shooters really, really hard because their goalies are shorter players and the 2 defenders for Maipo are very, very confident ball getters. So they would have capitalised on any and all ball passing errors. And that is what it would have been. It would have been just those 1 or 2 slight errors with ball handling that would have made the difference. Maipo would have been happy after the hard games I've had of late, but Tailem Bend would have dearly have loved to have taken out this game. But they'll learn and they'll come back. The season's only we're into week 6, so... but it would have been a good game. Maybe not as good as the Storm Jervois game, the last game, but it would have been a tight game nonetheless.
Well, let's get into that last game, Storm and Jervois. Jervois causing the upset 45-43, and it was a Mallee Storm home game as well. So a missed opportunity there for the Mallee Storm, who were sitting fourth on the ladder and had a really good chance to be sitting in second had they been able to win that one.
Yeah, they would have badly expected to have taken that game, being at home. I believe it was very even throughout the whole game, and it was only the one or two minor, like a rebound achieved here and then a converted goal, or a slide error here or an intercept here, that actually made the difference between the two teams. Storm beat Maipo quite convincingly not long ago, and yet Maipo beat Jervois by 15 goals. So the pressure on these two teams to perform must have actually got to Storm slightly more than Jervois. I mean, it was a hard battle, but the young kids at Jervois are starting to settle with their senior players, and maybe it was just their day.
Must have been their day indeed. A very good performance and a very good win. So after 5 rounds, well, fair to say we're all over the shop. Jervois just one win for the year, and they managed to get it against one of the top 4 teams. Maipalonga just scraped by one of the bottom 3 teams as the reigning premier, and the Southern Suns and the Imperials getting massive, massive wins. Everyone's had a win, but not everyone's had a loss yet, with the Imperials still undefeated. So that is the end of round 5. Let's look forward to round 6. And Pat, is there anything catching your eye as the game of the round?
Probably Ramblers Manum.
All right, let's start with Ramblers Manum then. What are you seeing in that game that's making it the match of the round?
Well, they're both very long-established opponents, and they'll go hard for the win, with especially in the goal circles. The defenders for both teams are very, very tight, so the goalies are going to have to work really, really hard, and it'll be the team that settles with their accuracy that will actually have the better advantage throughout the whole game. They'll both want it, but they're both coming back from a loss, so it'll be a hard-fought game. The ball's going to get knocked around something bad in this game. As to who it's going to be, I'd love to say Manum, but I think Ramblers, after playing Imps last week, will just have the slight edge. But it's going to be a close one.
All right, we're expecting a close one and the match of the round between the Ramblers and Manum. Coorong Cats back in action this week after the bye. They're heading to play the Imperials in an away game. The Imperials should win that one. The Cats have improved, but that'll be a tough game for them.
It definitely will be. And Imps now will have a strong sense of how they're going to finish their season. They will, in their minds, they've come up against probably the better teams they would have to face. They're sitting very confidently in their combinations and the way that their players are interacting with one another. It's going to be a lot of pressure on the Cats to perform against Imps. When they're on a high, they are on a high, and they are as confident as they could possibly be going into week 6. So I'm afraid the Cats are probably going to get a bit of a lesson on netball this weekend.
Mallee Storm, home game against Tailem Bend. Excellent chance for them to get back on the winners list.
Yeah, they should. At home, they should take out the win. Tailem Bend have been struggling a little bit to settle, but they're working hard at training at being able to do that. They'll want to make sure they take the 2 points, but I think Storm, after last week, they'll want to prove that they are a contender. So this, I think, will be a good battle, but I think if the Storm that played Maipalonga come to play, they should take out the game.
Lucky last, but certainly not least, Jervois hosting the Southern Suns, both coming off probably their best wins for the season to date.
Yeah, Jervois at home will feel really good after last week's win, and they'll be on a bit of a high, but with the score that Suns had over Manum, they're also going to be on a high, and I just feel, although that Jervois are starting to settle as a team and everything like that, the way the Suns have been playing thus far, they're not going to have much chance, I don't think, on Saturday. Jervois are still settling. The Suns seem to be almost starting to get into that cruise mode. So I think their combinations will continue to keep them on top in this game.
All right, big round 6 ahead after what was a sensational action-packed round 5. Good luck to everyone playing in the River Murray Netball Association tomorrow. Should be a cracking day for it. Pat, enjoy all the action. We'll check in with you again next Friday. Have a good weekend.
Certainly, Dan. Thank you.